Three Tales of Transformation, Catalyzing Innovations for the 2030 Agenda with the UN Global Pulse Scale Accelerator. This is a side event at the 9th Multi-stakeholder Forum on Science, Technology and Innovation for the Sustainable Development Goals, and is made possible by the generous support of the Ministry for Foreign Affairs of Finland. Along with UN Global Pulse, the UN Secretary General's Innovation Lab, the Finnish Ministry for Foreign Affairs is also a co-organizer of this side event, as are the United Nations Population Fund, World Food Programme, and the World Health Organization. We're thrilled to see you all joining us from across the globe. And for those who are joining outside of your usual business hours, we truly appreciate your interest and participation. This session is being recorded, and we have some general house rules to keep in mind during the session, so please take note of them in the chat. Throughout this event, we will hear from colleagues tales of what it takes to transform the innovations they have been working on, to transform the way the UN delivers on its 2030 agenda to transform the world. Now, before we jump in, allow me to introduce myself. I am Patricia Lowe, Senior Analyst for Innovation Scaling at UN Global Pulse, and I will be your moderator for this side event. And we will begin with opening remarks from Kirsten Jauer, Deputy Director at the Executive Office of the UN Secretary General, and Aki Enkenberg, Senior Advisor and Team Lead at the Finnish Ministry for Foreign Affairs. Following that, I'll be speaking to Ian Gray of Grey Dot Catalyst and Consultant Portfolio Senior Advisor for Innovation Scaling at UN Global Pulse about the critical aspects of scaling innovations and how to support them. But the true heart of today's program lies with our esteemed panel. I'm honored to be joined today by 10 colleagues, Josephine, Rahma, Samson, and Solomon, representing UNFPA's Innovation Drug Dash, Casper and Diana from WFP's Farm to Go, and Alphonse, Mary, Nancy, and Dr. Vinayak from WHO's Multi-Agency Initiative Tobacco-Free Farms. And together we'll have a chat about their experience with the UN Global Pulse Scale Accelerator and their strategies to make their piloted innovations sustainable and replicable to maximize the potential impact they have in achieving the 2030 agenda. At last year's forum, UN Global Pulse launched a research report, Scaling the Summit, and it looked at the opportunities and barriers of scaling innovations across the UN and made several recommendations, one of which was to make support for innovations and innovators more accessible across the UN system. And we responded with the UN Global Pulse Scale Accelerator, which is a UN system-wide service that provides a structured program for innovations to develop strategies for scaling and to potentially receive catalytic funding in the form of scale catalyst grants to assist them with implementing their strategies. And we put our call for applications over December and January. And despite it being a holiday period, we received 70 applications from 18 UN entities. 7 outstanding teams were selected to be part of our inaugural cohort and came from 5 UN entities: FAO, IOM, UNFPA, WFP, and WHO. They went through a rigorous workshop series in February to develop scale strategy proposals, which were then submitted and reviewed by a 5-person review panel. And after extensive deliberations, a decision was made to award not 2, as originally planned, but 3 Scale Catalyst grants. And here are our recipients today: UNFPA with Drug Dash, WFP with Farm to Go, and WHO with Tobacco-Free Farms Initiative. And without further ado, let's begin today's tale with the opening remarks by first Kirsten Jauer and then Aki Enkenberg. The floor is yours, Kirsten.
Thank you so much, Pat, and thanks to everyone who's joining today and the colleagues from the UN teams that are really at the center of this event. I'll keep this short, and just to help you understand why do we care in our office about the work that you're doing here together for the UN family, and most importantly, for the people we're here to serve. And I want to start this by thinking back on the journey we started last year. Pat already talked about this. We started that innovation scaling journey. And here is what this is really about when I try to translate this in my own mind. What we do in innovation is putting new seeds in the ground so that new things can grow, new trees can grow. And the journey that the teams have gone through over the last year is really one where we and the Global Pulse team, Global Pulse is the Secretary General's office, with the support of our partners, have tried to nurture those seeds, give them visibility, give them support, nutrients, water, give them space so that roots can take hold and new trees grow, not for their own sake, but to give people protection, to give them fruit and give them food and give them a livelihood. And that, abstracting from that picture, is what we want to see all across the UN family. That ability to put new seeds into the ground, making them grow, seeing larger trees, branches that can protect and support more people. And that's not an easy journey. That's something we all need to learn. It never happens. No garden does that happen just on its own. It needs support. And that is what the teams here in Global Pulse is there to provide. And we in the Secretary General's office are firmly behind that agenda. That's why we have Global Pulse. And that's why we now have an even larger agenda about creating change, positive change in the UN family. We call this UN 2.0. It's about learning to put seeds on the ground, not just for innovation, but around data, digital, foresight, behavioral science, all new methods that we think can help us create better gardens that can support more people. And I'm incredibly grateful that we have Global Pulse as a lighthouse initiative, as a place where we nurture those new ideas and can support hopefully more teams across the UN family as they begin their own journey. And I want to thank Aki and hand it over to him, because it's his determination and the support of his team that enables us to accompany teams like yours. And thanks everyone for joining. Please do have a look if you're interested in the larger journeys at the Global Pulse website. Do have a look at our larger agenda, UN 2.0. Just Google UN 2.0 and learn more about how we are all working together to make sure that the UN family can serve better in the future, and that we do that together.
Thank you, Kirsten, on that positive note about growth and nurturing. And yes, please do check the websites out. And now let's hear from Aki for the next set of opening remarks. Aki, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pat, and thank you, Kirsten, also for your kind words. So yes, it's my pleasure also to welcome everyone to this event on behalf of the government of Finland. It's one culmination point in a journey we have supported since 2020. The UN Global Pulse, as you may know, is a program that also has a footprint in Helsinki, in my country. We're very happy to host them and strongly believe in the strategic mission of the program to transform the UN system through building and disseminating these UN 2.0 competences, as Kirsten explained. This year is a really important milestone as we collectively decide how to tackle future challenges. Of course, referring to the Summit of the Future happening in September. And we do know that business as usual will not do it for the UN anymore. The UN 2.0 agenda is essential. It's one essential element of this. It's important to renew the way that the UN system works and delivers for the people and the planet. Innovation in the UN system has come a long way. So over the past 10 years, numerous innovation programs, various initiatives have been launched by different agencies and parts of the system. Innovation culture, organizational practices have matured, new funding mechanisms have emerged, new ways to build partnerships have been built. There is new kind of strategic support from the top also. Finland has actively supported these developments, both financially and politically, because we understand the importance of innovation for societies, economies, both for the public sector and the private sector. But recognizing the progress made, we do see adoption of innovation in the UN system needing a step change. We need much more focus to change things at the system level and collectively scale impact instead of working in silos. And the UN Global Pulse program is one vehicle for pursuing this. The Scale Accelerator program is a new initiative that can hopefully provide this kind of support for scaling the impact of innovation in the UN, including innovation management, partnerships, technology know-how, funding modalities, and other critical aspects of the journey. We see this as a step in the UN innovation journey, an important one. The interest towards the first implementation, as outlined in the very beginning by Pat, really shows that there's a need for a program such as this. But building this ecosystem, this scaling ecosystem, really calls for more member states and other stakeholders to come together to support the agenda. We do need to build new platforms and opportunities to support innovations in the UN system. So with these words, very much looking forward to the winners' presentations and the discussion today. And thanks everyone for joining. Thank you.
Thank you, Aki, and thanks for the continued support in our efforts to scale our impact as well. Now, to see the innovations in action, I will hand over to UNFPA to briefly introduce their innovation, followed by WFP and WHO. Rahma, if you're ready, take us away.
Yes, thank you so much, Pat, and thank you everyone for the wonderful remarks. I'm Rahma Nampala, and I work with Outbox. We, in partnership with UNFPA, we are piloting, or rather we are scaling the Drug Dash innovation. So Drug Dash is powering decisions for last mile health. This is in partnership with UNFPA and the Ministry of Health in Uganda. Allow me to introduce you to Margaret. Margaret is here. Pat, if you don't mind, the next slide.
Kakira rusure Margaret. Kakara kaisare. Ijon kediko kidope. Kopan vapotiongi eni yare kini. Bongo kedo kilenika. Akwenye ngoti purusha anyi ne poni wala tore ka koko. Anje una ngalo ite musiri abong no musiri. Pondo ranga moy kin bore ne nyami. Ran ko nyanga ranyu ni papero. Abong da ngara na lunch na para. Adum to ranga potu na mama kapakina. Ngara mama ajongo semiro ma pere kita dumun dengo yes. Losta rango bukedian. Dex na polo na bukedia. Awang aksauli likaruni. Dawang adaila el karukadela la pito monato sumongo yes. Alosta rango. Kabang ada karedo peke la pito monato some. Alagin konon kisa chertat ne balabon be jokalo aloito family planning nare nakini ja like ni koko waya lawu. Inakini vidu ada mamuta deka doba inakini bo amane likapunda jog ajau to jog.
Thank you so much, Pat. So Margaret Isirim, like you've seen, is one of very many women in Uganda that access family planning commodities from health facilities. Now, you find that the unmet need for family planning is very high in Uganda, and this brings about unplanned pregnancies. There's a lot of evidence to support this. So the recently published Uganda Demographic Health Survey indicates that the current unmet need for family planning is at 22%, and yet the target is just 10%. And then it also indicates that there is low modern contraceptive prevalence rate, that is at 38%, and yet the target is 50%. It also indicates that stock out rates for any contraceptive method are at 60%, and this is fairly high. And this is attributed to a number of reasons. Pat, if you don't mind. Yes, so it's attributed to a number of reasons, one of them being poor information flow on stock status between the district health office and the health facilities, as well as the Ministry of Health and other partners. And due to this poor information flow, you find that stockouts happen, drugs expire at health facilities, and due to that, women are not able to get their family planning methods of choice. So Outbox, working with UNFPA, came up with this very innovative solution called Drug Dash. Drug Dash is what? Yes, so Drug Dash is a web and mobile application, and it enables district health offices and the Ministry of Health and other partners to see and understand real-time information on the family planning commodities that are available at the health facilities, so that they are able to make decisions on when to redistribute what is about to expire. Because of this, there's zero wastage. The innovative solution provides visibility into the commodities that are currently available, and this starts with the health facility. So the health facility at the health facility, the solution is placed at the health facility store, and that is where the data entry is done. So they record what has been received, what has been issued. This is then reflected on the dashboard that is viewed by the district health officer and the rest of their team. They then are able to make decisions on, okay, let's redistribute. This commodity is running out at this facility. Let's make movements here and there. Same applies to the ministry. It's able to see what's the consumption rate like for them to be able to plan and know that this commodity is fast moving, this is not moving enough, where do we need to intensify our efforts to make sure that all methods are used and that all facilities get the appropriate methods. Yes, Pat. Our vision in 10 years, we envision Drugdash to be a one-stop digital warehouse for family planning consumption data with over 50,000 facilities in Eastern and Southern Africa. And with the support from UN Global Pulse, we see this coming to light. Right now, we are looking at in 2 years, our goal is to enhance decision making for family planning commodities, and we are looking at starting with 500 facilities in Uganda to increase the number of facilities that we are currently in. We'll be providing the ministry and other stakeholders with real-time and accurate data on family planning consumption. Yes, Pat. Yes, so we are going to do this, first of all, by implementing a number of strategies. We're going to work with the ministry, we're going to work with other partners and those in health, those that are strictly in family planning, and all in all, we are going to make sure that the unmet need is reduced and that women are able to access their family planning methods of choice, and that decision makers are able to know what to purchase, and how to plan. Thank you so much for listening to me. I am going to hand over to Casper. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Casper, and I'm the Digital Agriculture Officer from WFP. I'm going to tell you more about Farm2Go, which is WFP's digital solution to support smallholder farmer program activities. Next slide, please. So the problem that we were trying to solve with Farm2Go is focusing on where smallholder farmers lack access to markets and they lack access to information. And even more so, they also are neglected when it comes to the digital age. We're all used to using smartphones and applications, but that the regions that we support smallholder farmers, they don't necessarily always have access to these technologies. So the problem that you're seeing here is a picture I took in Rwanda. My colleague there, Pascal, is holding up a paper-based book that the cooperatives are using to record the details of their smallholder farmers and all the commodities that they're receiving and aggregating on behalf of their smallholder farmers. And Agnes here, holding the tablet with the Farm2Go smartphone app on it, she said that even just using the application to look up her farmers and finding her farmers and updating the details was already a massive benefit. So we're giving them access to markets and giving them access to information, but also giving them access to the digital age. Next slide. So with Farm2Go, which is a smartphone application that aggregators or cooperatives use, they can register the profiles of their farmers, and they can then also start to collect the commodities of their farmers, and they can build a stock that's on hand for their farmers. And then we have buyers who are, it could be retailers or it could be local schools. They are registered as web users with an e-commerce kind of experience, and they can then see the produce that have been deposited by the farmers, and they can make offers through the platform. So it's formalizing the connection between the aggregators that represent the farmers and the buyers on the other side. And then in the video that we're going to show you now, we're going to show how this is already benefiting users in Bangladesh, not just by connecting them to the market, but then also ensuring that their identities are kept private in the process. So you can start the video now.
The production and then selling for female farmer is not very easy. So in the market, if they are going to the market, they will face a lot of difficulties to compete against the male farmers due to cultural situation and the differences. So in this way, Farm2Go is actually bringing the market to them.
Thanks. Next up is Diana.
Thank you, Casper. Hello, everybody. I'm Diana Suarez, Product Manager of Farm2Go, and I want to cover our global reach. So in this slide, you can see since April 2021, when Farm2Go was first pilot in Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh, our solution has made remarkable progress. We have successfully onboarded over 12,000 farmers across very diverse regions, including Bangladesh, Mozambique, Rwanda, and the Philippines. From the beginning, our vision has been to develop a product, not just a project. And what we wanted was having a product that was able to be adapted to various country contexts. In fact, our unique feature lies in how easy it is to replicate our solution, and this is a key advantage that we always position to WFP country offices. Put simply, our local teams no longer need to navigate really long sought-for procurement process, but instead, it is quite easy to launch Farm2Go. Our solution is already ready to be implemented in their unique context. And our local teams only have to take care of configurations, looking at the local context, local produce, and of course, the local language. We have learned having the app in a specific language in a remote community is actually highly valuable for our user base. Next slide, please. With the very valuable support from the UN Global Pulse Accelerator, we defined a scale vision for Farm2Go in the next 10 years. We want to become the UN leading digital solution that facilitates market access for 2 million farmers in 50 countries. And we want to achieve this by leveraging UN ecosystem multi-stakeholder partnerships. Examples of these partnerships go all the way from potential synergies with FAO, and the aim would be to reach more beneficiaries where both institutions already have overlapping operations, and also collaborate with humanitarian actors like UNICEF, just tackling some of the issues that are already impacting our beneficiaries, like lack of internet connectivity. We also defined a scale goal for the next 24 months. In this case, what we want to achieve is position Farm2Go in WFP as the leading corporate solution, reaching 100,000 farmers in 10 countries. We want to do it by codifying deployments and increasing internal synergies. Key enablers of those synergies are the school meals program and some collaborations with the Climate Resilience Unit to make sure we use Farm2Go to take climate insight to cooperatives of farmers. Thank you all for your attention, and I'll hand over now to Vinayak Mohan from WHO.
Thank you. I'm Vinayak Prasad. I head the Tobacco Control Program in WHO in Geneva. And it's a pleasure to be talking to all of you and to see the recognition to this initiative called Tobacco-Free Farms. In the context of tobacco, we have 3.5 million hectares of land in 80 countries where tobacco is grown. Most worrisome is that in the last 15 years, more than 10 African countries have increased their tobacco growing by more than 20%. And they've taken away some of the best land for which could have led them to become more food secure. Also, the narrative that tobacco in farming is most profitable is something with the tobacco industry is sold so well that tobacco control policies have been hampered. So it's health-led initiatives, but it could not have happened without getting the stakeholder groups, whether it's the agriculture sector, the food sector. So we brought in amongst our UN entities, World Food Program, initially even FAO, to discuss the policy issues, UNCDF, the Capital Development Fund for launching microfinance, UNCCD looking at climate smart, and a range of new entities, even UNOPS, which is now looking into it. And started at Kenya to show that the farmer is actually willing to share, can make more money by growing food crops, and in this initiative, nearly 3 times more money than they have made in tobacco, saving environment, saving their soil, better health. So all of that combined was as a concept. Now, this is innovative in that sense that to bring all stakeholders to think for a common cause is not so easy because we work in our silos. And to break that silo required some bit of looking at the evidence, looking at shaping the market strategies, which World Food Program's Farm to Market Alliance has been very helpful. And over the last 6 cycles of cropping, we have now reached 7,000 farmers, already scaling up to Zambia. Kenya is virtually getting enough traction to get another 3,000 or 4,000 farmers in the coming cycles. The evidence of better health, better income, we are documenting it. The evidence of farmer wanting to do it, we have documented that. And I will actually let one of the farmers, Prina, to talk about it, because in our initiative, we have nearly 50% of the beneficiaries being smallholder women farmers. And it's an excellent initiative, which we see the potential to scale in at least 10 African countries and another 15 countries in South Asia and Southeast Asia. And so over to you for Sabrina's video to run.
My parents were farmers. I inherited tobacco farming from my parents and found it has so many negative effects as far as human life is concerned. Working with the tobacco is so tedious and tiresome. You actually do not have time to rest because you need to take a lot of your time in the farm, checking the farm, spraying chemicals, because tobacco is a delicate crop. It is not tolerant to diseases and pests. So we were given so many pesticides to help control the pests on the farm. The companies will provide pesticides in form of loans, but then at a very high cost. Some of these pesticides were very strong and poisonous, and they led to health problems. And another thing is that because of the very, very many chemicals that were used, the soil deteriorated. Without knowing it, we were destroying our soil. During the curing process, we find that inhaling the smoke was very much poisonous to our cells. Tobacco led to much destruction. There was very little production in terms of food because tobacco requires large portions of land for you to realize the benefit. And because of this, other food crops could get very, very small portions of land for production, which was not adequate even to sustain the family itself. When we were farming tobacco, our children were so much stressed. We would at times stop them from going to school so that they render us a hand of support during tobacco production. It has led to so many problems in this community. It has pulled us backward. Instead of moving forward, we've always moved backwards. So all these are not fair to a farmer. The World Health Organization officials came. They visited our group. They decided to know this group, where it is located and what they do. So they came and talked to us. They decided to give us some seeds for planting to motivate us to move and take iron bean production as an alternative crop to tobacco. We accepted it and took it in and took a step to change. And it was just a decision I made and shifted immediately and did not turn back looking into tobacco farms again. If we try to compare iron bean and tobacco, actually there's a very big difference. Iron bean is tolerant. It is tolerant to diseases. It is tolerant to the drought. Also, iron bean does not destroy the soil. Instead, it increases soil fertility through nitrogen fixation. Iron bean takes a very short period of time in the field, that is 2 months. Another thing is that iron bean earns good money because it has ready market after production. We aggregate our crop after harvesting. It is cash on delivery. I'm now able to earn good money from iron bean, and within a very short period of time and with the minimized work. And after deciding to shift from tobacco farming to iron bean farming, I got even time to rest. I also had time to actually prepare a balanced meal for my family. Their health is improved through eating iron bean because it's full of protein, and they are now strong. And when I look at them, I feel proud. I just feel proud.
Thank you. Over to you, Patricia.
Thank you. And that was a really stark reminder of why we need to do what we do and why we're here today. So thank you, teams, for showcasing your inspiring work and for giving us a sense of what an innovation could look like and the potential they have to transform lives, which we can also see it's not an easy task. So to delve deeper into what it takes to scale an innovation, I'm joined now by Ian Gray, Portfolio Senior Advisor on Innovation Scaling for UN Global Pulse and lead facilitator of our recent Scale Accelerator workshops with the teams. Ian has done extensive research on the opportunities and challenges of scaling innovations and has more than 10 years of experience of consulting on innovation capacity building. He has also worked with multiple development and humanitarian actors on how to create the right support framework to scale innovations and has recently published a book called The Scaling Value Playbook. Ian, thanks for joining us today. And please tell us, what does the research and experience tell us that innovators or innovations need to be able to scale?
Thanks, Pat. And thank you to all the teams. It was good to see your presentations and yeah, good to be reminded of the great work you're all doing. So we've done a fair amount of research in the past in terms of, as we're scaling innovations, what do the innovators and the innovation teams need? And there's kind of 5 or 6 things that come up. One is that they need money. That's the main thing. Everyone needs financing to keep growing their innovation. But they also need other things aside from this. And often they were talking about partnerships, kind of supporting brokering those partnerships, but also training and tools to kind of think through the different aspects they need to cover while they scale. And both strategic mentoring, so someone who can really provide them the overview of where they need to go and support them with that, but also in addition to that, sometimes deep technical knowledge and advice on particular areas. And the other thing is, as the innovation grows, so sometimes there's a team or the organization. So what does that team and organizational development look like? So in the Scale Accelerator, we're particularly focusing on providing funding, providing that strategic mentoring. We've done training and provided the tools and provided some support around thinking around partnerships and organizational development as well.
Thanks, Ian. It sounds like there are obviously a lot of facets to it, but what would you say are the critical aspects that need to be addressed and how can we support that?
Yeah, so there's 3 main things or areas to think about when you're scaling. One is no surprise. So it's the solution. What we call the solution, you might call the innovation itself. So teams will have developed it, and as they're coming into scale, may have piloted it in a few locations, but now they're thinking about actually the long-term life of that innovation. What happens maybe if it's a physical product, a digital product at the end of its life? How do they provide technical assistance along the kind of user's journey with that innovation? It's not just about getting it out there to others, it's about supporting that innovation over its life cycle. So we think about the solution itself. How do we get it so that it's ready to scale in a way that is efficient and effective? Then we also think about your team or your organization. How do you make it so that it's enabling innovation? And there's lots of work that's been done in multiple UN agencies on this, but there's still a long way to go with a lot of UN agencies to think, how do we best support innovation, not just to create the ideas in a lab off center, but actually integrate that innovation into our own wider organizational work and across the UN system. And that's something that clearly came out in the report that you mentioned before in the research we did, Pat, across the UN. And then finally, scaling is really something about building an ecosystem. It's not just about your team and your innovation and your organization, but it's an ecosystem that needs to support that. And we call it a value network. And we looked a lot about the roles that are played within that value network and what's needed in order to scale. So thinking on those 3 areas, you can then come up with a scale strategy, which really looks at where do we want to be in 10 years? And you saw that in the presentations, really get that long-term vision, because we know it takes a decade or more to scale most innovations. But also in the more immediate term, in the next 2 years, where do we want to be so we can tangibly put together a plan of action?
Thanks, Ian. So you've narrowed it all down to looking at the solution, looking at whether your team organization's ready, and then also gathering that ecosystem around your work. So it's still like, sounds like there's a lot to address here. But thank you, Ian, for sharing your wisdom with us today. So now we move to the main feature of this event, our panel members, to hear about the aspects that were critical to them and their work. So Josephine, let's begin with you. Maybe let's start with, what does scaling mean to you?
Thank you, Patricia. I would like to highly acknowledge the opportunity that UN Global Pulse Accelerator did accord to UNFPA Uganda Country Office through being able to participate in the scaling opportunity. Please allow me to give just a very brief perspective about, where we stand at regarding the solution that we are availing as an innovation known as Drug Dash. If you look at the country, currently, we have about 11 million women of reproductive age, and only 4 million of these are actually using modern contraceptives. As we speak, actually, tomorrow, Uganda will be undertaking its census, so we shall have more statistics thereafter. Through the UN Global Pulse Accelerator scale, Drug Dash is actually going to contribute to Uganda's Family Planning 2030 commitments to increase the modern contraceptive prevalence rate for all women and reduce the unmet need of family planning, which is one of the mandates of UNFPA. Mainly, the reduction will be from the current 17% to 15%, and this will be by 2025. And this is actually going to be through enhancing awareness, access, decision-making at all, separate levels. And we know that in doing that, actually, we shall also be mitigating significantly to unintended pregnancies in the long run, and also maternal mortality, which is currently at 20% in Uganda. And this we are doing as UNFPA Uganda Country Office in partnership with Outbox, Uganda's leading innovation firm. And if we get to the reality of what scaling means to us as UNFPA Uganda in taking Drug Dash to the next level, this involves expanding, replicating successful initiatives and strategies that we were able to partake from the value scaling process that was given to us by the UN Global Pulse Accelerator. And this is going to enhance the initiatives and strategies that are advanced, that are aimed at advancing the sexual reproductive health, the gender equality, not to mention the population and development issues. And indeed, if you proceed to look at what it means to us as UNFPA to take the innovative solution to the next level, it means expanding our reach, particularly to those that are marginalized, all those that are vulnerable. Like you saw the story of Margaret in the picture, that is the actual last mile. We also look at the fact that scaling to us brings about an adaptability, to the context that we already have, as we were able to, partake of the value network system as per our incubation process that we had with the UN Global Pulse Accelerator. And we know that this will be helping us to adapt Drug Dash to diverse cultural and, economic context as we keep going. Very vital to our scaling is building the partnerships, the power in collaboration. The Ministry of Health is already on our side. We are going to engage, as per our learning, the National Information and Technology Organization of the country, a number of other organizations from the national perspective, like the national medical stores, to be able to support us in ensuring the reality, the dreams come to pass not to mention other stakeholders who are really, really crucial to this scaling. The capacity strengthening, I must mention, that has been, that is supporting us to deliver the quality SRHR services. And SRHR, I keep referring to that as, which means the sexual reproductive health and rights. Of course, this comes with a lot of training of the healthcare providers, whom we shall be reaching at the various districts. We shall be expanding to another 55 health centers at the last mile, improving their infrastructure, the main drug dash infrastructure, but also promoting the community engagement and empowerment. The advocacy and policy support is another element that scaling really brings a meaning to the work that we do as UNFPA Uganda, and particularly to the drug dash solution. I won't mention much about the monitoring and evaluation, but on overall scaling the drug dash solution for UNFPA to us means amplifying the impact of proven approaches, which we have been able to partake, like Pat noted in the book of Ian known as Value Scaling Playbook. We partake all this to ensure that we are using these proven approaches to improve the uptake of family planning among individuals, families, communities, and ultimately contributing to the organization's mission in achieving the universal access to sexual reproductive health and rights, and mitigating one of the 3 zeros of UNFPA, which is the unmet need of family planning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josephine. Sounds like you've got a very extensive strategy to getting your solution ready for scale. But let's move on to Diana. Any thoughts on what scaling would mean to you and your work?
Absolutely. Thank you, Pat. So for the Farm2Go team, scaling really is a team strategy. And we want to ensure our product can effectively meet the demands of a growing user base. And for that, we want to have a user-centered approach. So research is at the center of everything we do in WFP. And we want to continuously understand the evolving needs of smallholder farmers. So everything we do is refining our product roadmap and making sure we respond to changing needs and changing contexts. I think this is the key area that we focus on with the product team. As product manager and owner of the backlog and making sure we are including innovative trends and Farm2Go value proposition, it just continuously means evaluating what is next. What can we do to keep the hype and making sure Farm2Go relevance increases, not only in WFP, but also in the UN ecosystem. Again, I would say, even though we are continuously reaching to new country offices and we want to become bigger, it doesn't mean sacrificing user experience or sacrificing value for end beneficiaries. On the contrary, it's about how can we get there while maintaining value and making sure the user is at the center. Those are the key elements of Farm2Go scaling concept, and this is how we embody innovation on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. And maybe we'll just quickly move to Nancy now and hear from you, Nancy. How does scaling look like to you?
Thank you, Pat. My name is Nancy Silong, Project Assistant for the Tobacco Free Farms Project at WHO Kenya. And for the Tobacco Free Farms, scaling means that in a decade, we'll be able to facilitate the successful transition of 60% of tobacco growers in Kenya to sustainable, nutritious, and profitable alternatives. In the long run, we are aiming to reach farmers in all 8 tobacco growing counties in Kenya through the development and promotion of stable and viable markets for alternative crops. So as we hold this view in mind, there are barriers that we are breaking down for farmers to be able to access sound agricultural practices, through delivery of information to stimulate a critical behavior change, and then linking the farmers to suitable private sector players through our farmer service center model for input supply, microcredits, and also co-sharing services, for example, threshing and spray services. Lastly, and critically, we are working to strengthen the market for the smallholder farmers to access robust and structured markets for alternative value chains. And one more critical success factor is that we're working to integrate the project to the local context through adoption by county governments and having the Tobacco-Free Farms project ingrained into their planning cycles and ensuring sustainability in that sense. At long last, we're going to have more farmers having viable alternatives to tobacco growing. Thank you, Pat, and over to you.
Thank you, Nancy and Diana and Josephine. So it sounds like scaling can take different forms and meanings with different roots and multiple needs as well. But how can we translate them into concrete plans to achieve them? Alphonse, if you're there, would you care to share Tobacco-Free Farms' approach?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Patricia. Just 1 minute. Yes, majorly over the last 2 years, what we've done and scaled over the initiative, we've managed to have done 330 to 4,600 smallholder farmers. That we've expanded from the first county to 4 counties at the moment. Again, the number of partners that that already we've brought into the process, introducing the structured markets and different value chain options, has made us to see the great achievements, initiative aligning to the scale goal and vision among the health side, agriculture and finance sectors. We've also included the UN partners working together closely with a strong understanding of each other, when they understand their roles, functions, and brought in their partners from respective areas, strengthening and accelerating their work of initiative. But again, looking at this, with this strong foundation where we brought in the different partners in place, we felt our innovations, which focuses on partnership rather than new tools or technologies, was ready to receive extra support and guidance for scaling to new counties and counties to drive an impact in Kenya.
Thank you, Alphonse.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Alphonse. That's really interesting. Maybe we can hear from Mary on which of the elements covered in the workshops did your team find the most relevant to your plans for getting your innovations ready for scale?
Thank you, Pat. My name is Mary Wanjohi. I work for the World Food Program. And as you can see, the winner of this accelerator was WHO. And what was important for us was the value network strategy. Within the Tobacco-Free Farm, we have brought in a lot of organizations from the public and the private sector. And under the UN organizational foundation, we've been able to bring out this Tobacco-Free Farm initiative. So in our workshop, when we were able to delve really much into the value network strategy, and we learned how to map our ecosystem and to find which organization fits, what their roles are, what they bring to the table, and how they contribute to the whole ecosystem and the success of the initiative was really quite an interesting concept that we were able to bring out from this experience. We were able to define specific roles from each player, and this allowed us to actually identify the gaps that before we had not seen, and to further refine what we have been able to do. We are now working with the three sectors that have been highlighted by Bolo. These are the health area, the agricultural sector, and also with the finance. So having a strong value network strategy is quite critical in the tobacco-free farm achieving its goal. Not one organization will be able to overcome this challenge of tobacco growing, but it has to be an interdisciplinary, inter-organizational approach. And we're really thankful for the support we got with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary and Alphonse. And sounds like for that tobacco-free farm, it's a lot about your value network and bringing the ecosystem with partnerships and different actors together. Now, what about you, Casper, and reflecting on what Diana said earlier about what scaling means for Farm to Go and for your team, can you walk us through your process of turning that into a concrete roadmap? And similarly, was there anything specific, any elements from the workshops that you found very relatable or most relatable?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. So for Farm to Go, we were pretty sure that the technology is working. We've tested it in a few countries, we've piloted, but we never really took the time to think about our scaling strategy. As you know, when you're busy working, you're always going to the next thing, and you don't really have time to really sit and think. And that's actually why we applied to the Scale Accelerator in the first place, is we needed that nudge. And from the UN Global Pulse team, we didn't just get a nudge, we got to push up the scaling mountain to help us think about this strategy that we need to scale Farm to Go. So one of the things that we identified during this Scaling Accelerator is that we realized that, yes, we're good at piloting and we're good at showing potential, but we need more evidence, and we need to generate that evidence with better adoption. And this is something that we wanted to focus on in our scale strategy.
Thank you very much, Casper. And then finally, I think if Josephine, if you're there, what was your experience like? So we've heard from WHO and WFP. So what was your experience like in preparing Drug Dash ready for scale?
Wow, it was quite an experience, because we did this right at the beginning of 2024 to be able to beat the deadline, and it was quite an insightful process. And if I may even share why we did apply, we had quite a number of compelling reasons. Yes, scaling was very key, but we know that we needed to have the access to the both technical and financial resources, including the expertise that comes with being part of this kind of opportunity. So a wealth of resources that we did attain through the scale strategy process, and we had quite we had quite a number of technical assistance opportunities that included mentorship, and also just having those moments to interact with the thought process of what does this really mean to us. I like the fact that we were able to identify the gaps that were existing in terms of taking Drug Dash to the next level. Very, very key that we got to partake, because we knew that the value networks that we are coming with this for collaboration opportunities, like I shared earlier, but also knowledge sharing and being able to take this solution to the next level. It was also in alignment to UNFPA's organizational, goals. So that was quite compelling. I should note that the Scale solution for Drug Dash will ensure that the digital tool provides almost real-time information on family planning stock status to support the supply chain decision making and ensure that we have the timely placement of supplies. Yes, this testifies that we were in tandem with the need to apply, and it has been quite an experience. The challenges were identified, as I noted, but also on a bigger front, it is the opportunities that we have been able to liaise with being part of the UN Global Pulse Accelerator when we reflect on how far our Scale strategy has actually come due to the technical support of the team. Thank you so much, and over to you.
Thank you, Josephine. And again, can't highlight enough the importance of just trying to bring everyone together, because like we've said, even from the beginning, scaling is not really something that you do alone. It's a multi-layered thing. So now tobacco-free farms and Farm2Go have talked about the value network and the partnerships that they need to get around them, and getting people ready and still getting people the main focus of the innovation. So what about Drug Dash? Samson, could you tell us, like, was there anything from the workshops that you thought was quite crucial or quite useful, or a surprise at all in your approach?
Thank you, Pat. My name is Samson. I'm the technical team leader at Drug Dash. So I remember I think it was the first or second workshop where we were like, okay, so we're going to think about where we want to get to in 10 years. I'm like, wait, what? 10 years? We've not done this. We haven't thought about this. What is this even, right? So for us, that was very eye-opening to say, okay, yes, we are doing so many things right now, but we also need to think about where we need to get to in 10 years. But then not just saying, hey, this is where we need to get to in 10 years, and then sitting and hoping the time passes by, but also coming back to 2 years, what do we need to do now? What do we need to change? There were a couple of tools around, there are a couple of assessment tools around the gaps that we needed to address. So like what culture do we have? What culture would serve us in 10 years? What do we need to change? In terms of technology, what do we have? Where do we need to get to? And processes and tools. One of the examples were like, we need to go into these other countries, and then we're like, okay, but have we looked at the data policies for those countries, right? So being aware of those gaps helps you make the right steps to get to where you need to be, as opposed to, waking up one day and saying, okay, now we're going to Rwanda or Kenya, and then you get there and they're like, oh, we have these data policies and you can't host the data in Uganda. So the workshop was really helpful to start to say, okay, we need to do what we are doing right now to keep the innovations going, but we also need to take steps in the right direction for where we need to get to in 10 years.
Thank you, Samson. Yeah, so it sounds again like for you, it was thinking about what, it's not just replicating the solution, but actually what else you need to take into consideration to even start replicating your solution. Can it be replicable even? So that's really interesting. Thank you, Josephine and Samson. Now we've got just one more question. And so finally, if I can ask Samson, Diana, and Nancy, maybe starting with you, Samson, can you share with us, now that you've given us an idea of your thought process and how you've approached the strategy to scale, can you tell us what's next in your steps for your tale of transformation? Samson.
Right. So one of the other key things that we talked about was sustainability, because the innovation needs to keep going. I remember earlier on Ian said you need money to keep going, right? And I vividly remember the sustainability toolkit where you have revenue streams that you can try and the impact matrix. So we have this product, we need to keep it going, we need to be able to generate revenue from it. So it's what do we prioritize with? Because I remember it had, if you do this, this is the impact. So first step is how do we get the innovation sustainable? How do we play with the revenue models? What assumptions do we have? How do we verify them quickly? And also, how do we iterate quickly? I remember, I think John sang a song at the end of the trainings where he just captured everything. And one of the key things that stood out for me was how you have to keep going. You can't scale your innovation by just sitting. So you have to keep playing with things and try them out and see where that gets you. Yeah, so I think playing with things, trying out things, and then keep on moving. That's the only way you get there. You can't get there by just sitting.
Very innovative mindset of just that continuous learning and getting evidence and improving on that. Thank you, Samson. Over to you, Diana. What's next from here, from the accelerator?
Thank you, Pat. So for Farm2Go, it was really about focusing on engagement and adoption. And to do so, we identified we needed a new role, some expertise on adoption products to be located in Bangladesh. So this is one of our most important implementations at the moment. And we do need to build that product strategy from the ground and making sure we are following up more closely on different user segments. So it's not the same to have some farmers register than to have them actively creating deposits and completing exchanges. So we are taking the product analysis to the next level, having some additional resources and insights into not only the total number of beneficiaries that we are reaching, but the quality of those engagement and how to make sure we even create some loyalty around the product. That would be the most important step. And thank you so much for the Catalyst grant. We are using part of the funds to fund this role, to hire the person, to train the person. So we are extremely grateful for having that option now. The second step definitely is evidence. We shared in the past how one user tutorial that was featured in the BBC was highlighting the value that we provide to female smallholder farmers in Bangladesh. And this was an eye-opener for us in terms of let's go there and let's find out how many more stories we have behind the scenes of people using Farm2Go and actually changing their lives one way or another. So for us to understand the impact we're having on income levels, quality of life of smallholder farmers, we need a lot more research with local teams and interviews and any kind of user center, again, devices and tools, so that we can follow up more closely, not only on the challenges that we have, but also the success stories already happening on the field. So increasing the evidence and making sure we capture that in a really good tool, for instance, value-based dashboards that we can use to reach out to new country offices and to position Farm2Go as an end-to-end value delivery tool. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. So again, sounds quite similar of just getting the evidence to prove your solution, but then also having an added element, getting your team ready as well and building that capacity as part of your strategy. Thank you. And then last, Nancy.
Sorry. Thank you, Pat. Our most impactful concept going forward was the solution scalability assessment. It was a key turning point for during the workshop to reveal several parts of the puzzle that we needed refining as we built towards our scale vision, which is 10 years out. We are taking the pathway of replicability and adaptability. We feel confident in our innovation's ability to have desired impact for the target group. And we want to ensure that the innovation is replicable in different contexts, even within one country, and adopted by the relevant partners and key stakeholders. This will be key in helping us to achieve our scale vision in Kenya, but also expanding the initiative to cover more tobacco growing countries globally. So at the subnational level, the Scale Catalyst grant will support the expansion of the project to new wards to help achieve our scale goal of more farmers and more acres of land supported through this project in Kenya. So we're going to train 1,000 additional farmers and in 4 additional wards in 2 counties. And the Scale Catalyst grant will also support us in designing standard operating procedures for introducing the initiative in new counties and in other countries. It will also support us in hosting one country consultation with a tobacco growing country that seems ready to adopt the initiative. That's it for me, and thank you. Over to you, Pat.
Thank you, Nancy. And I think you took the words right off my mouth. Like we think of scaling as making an innovation sustainable and replicable as well. So to give it its best chance at achieving impact at scale. So thank you to our panelists. So we've heard from Kirsten, Aki, Ian, and our colleagues from UNFPA, WFP, and WHO and their partners. And the resounding unifying message has been that innovations have the potential to make a change at scale. But as you've heard from the experiences, the road to that is long and arduous, with highs and lows that require strategic approaches, mentoring, and a helping hand along the way. So we have had the first UN Global Pulse Scale Accelerator cohort, and I hope that we have been that helping hand to all the teams that went through it. And we hope to continue to be that helping hand to colleagues across the UN system to strategically prepare their innovations for scale. I'm pleased to say that we are looking to organize a second cohort later this year. So we invite you to stay in touch with us at UN Global Pulse for news and updates on that. And we will put the links to the Scale Accelerator page and social media channels in the chat. Please also feel free to check out our blog post to learn more about the 7 teams that went through the page. And that concludes this side event. So in closing, I want to express my sincere gratitude to all of you for joining us today, and especially our co-organizers, our speakers, and our panel members. And thank you all for making this event a success. See you next time.